Don't really have an intro for this video today, but we're just gonna go ahead and jump right into it. But what is up, guys? Thank you so much for watching this video today. On this video, we are finally gonna be focusing on my Datsun280zx. But before we get started on this video, be sure to give this video a like and consider subscribing as well, so you can keep on the updates of the Datsun280zx and also the Civic Si. Okay guys, just a little update. So if you guys are new here, this is my 1981 Datsun280zx. It is a 2x2 version. Pretty much what 2x2 means, just has an extra 2 seats in the back. Now usually Z cars, they are only 2-seaters, but for this model trim, I have the 2x2 version. So basically my goal for this car is to completely restore it and also modify it as well. It's definitely going to be a long process, but I am very motivated to get this thing started and back on the road again, because it's been neglected for too long and I just want to drive it onto the road again as much as possible. So let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to be doing today. Alright guys, so what I have on the Datsun currently right now, it's on Technotoy tuning coilovers. I do have an aftermarket headers I found on eBay or whatever, but other than that, I do have some spacers in the front just for rubbing issues. But other than that, completely, this car is mostly stock. Like, I didn't have any engine modifications to it just because of how old the engine is. It has over 200,000 miles on it. Now, I do plan to rebuild this completely just to make sure everything is refurbished and reliable. But for now, we have an issue with the exhaust emission, so I'll get down in a bit. Alright guys, since the car has been sitting for like months, like I had the battery disconnected this whole time just so it doesn't drain on me, but we're gonna go give this car a little startup just to break everything loose and like have it running again. This is what I usually do when the car's just been sitting, just to make sure everything is fine. But pretty much what we're going to be doing is all these rubber hoses and all these cracks, we're going to try to take care of that today. Right, so if you guys look really closely, so like I mentioned before, I do have some aftermarket headers I found on eBay. So pretty much what I have to do is, so I mentioned that we had some exhaust and emission issues, so pretty much the headers that I installed were for a manual transmission Datsun280zx. Now if you go into the engine cabin, there is the downpipe that's supposed to connect to the manifold. So unfortunately it was hitting my transmission because it is an automatic. Now I will be manual swapping this eventually, but this downpipe and for the aftermarket manifold was for a manual transmission car. So what we have to be doing is we're going to figure out a new exhaust system to get made or customly made for my vehicle in order for that to work, because right now I'm just running open headers. Now it sounds sick and I will show you guys in a bit what it sounds like, but unfortunately we're gonna have to wait on that just because I have to, just a couple $100 short, so, and I have to contact some people to where I can get the best manifold or the best custom exhaust made. But what we're going to be focusing is replacing some rubber hoses and also the O2 sensor. But for now, let's go ahead and start this car up. So yeah, it's loud. I will never get old right now, because right now it's just running on open headers, so it's obnoxiously loud. I don't plan to keep it that way, even though if it sounds super sick. But right now, like I said before, the Datsun is running on open headers because that exhaust issue. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to get that exhaust made eventually, but I just wanted to start that up just to break in some old carbon that's probably left in there. But what we're going to be doing is trying to focus on getting these rubber hoses replaced, because the buddy of mine that fixed this, if you guys remember Andy that fixed my exhaust issue, he said what I should also be doing is replacing some of these rubber or silicone hoses, like for instance the mass airflow sensor boot. Now they do have a few cracks in them, but unfortunately when I went to go replace this, I got the wrong one, because if you guys look closely, there's 2 ports right here. The one I got only has 1. So for this mass airflow sensor boot, when I went to go try to order it recently, it is temporarily discontinued right now, or actually temporarily out of stock. So unfortunately they'll have to import more. I tried finding some on eBay, and also I would say what is it, Z-Car Depot or Z-Car source. They're out of stock as well too, so I'm gonna have to wait a little bit longer just so I can find that airflow sensor boot. Now, I'd rather get a new one instead of a used one. I did find a used one, but I don't know the exact condition and what it's gonna be in, so there's probably gonna be a crack and I have to do everything all over again. So I'm just gonna wait on that for a bit and focus on what I can do at the moment. So you guys, if you take a look right here, we are going to be using this today. So pretty much what this is a DIY smoke machine that I'm going to be putting inside the engine. So pretty much what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be creating my own smoke in this jar, and I have some vacuum or tubes to connect to the engine, and the other one's going to connect to some air that's going to be going in, and it's going to be pushing the smoke out and into the engine. Okay guys, so I got the project a little set up. So what I did is I just connect one of these hoses here, and I have the project DIY smoke just sitting right here, just waiting for the solder iron to heat up the rag or the oil inside so I can create the smoke. And afterwards we can go ahead and connect this air pump that I got from Harbor Freight and push the smoke in the engine, and afterwards hopefully we'll see some leaks that we can take care of today, and hopefully not something too big of an issue, because then it's going to push back the Datsun even more to get ready back on the road. But let's go ahead and see if there's any leaks. Okay guys, so after pumping some smoke for past couple like 10-15 minutes now, so far I didn't see any other smoke leaks besides the ones I made myself, which pretty much is this hose connected to here, and also the hose that was connected right here. That's the only place the smoke is coming out. So I've been letting it sit for a good minute, see if just create more smoke, see if there's any other leaks, but it looks like we don't have any leaks in the hoses. But eventually we're gonna have to replace all these hoses eventually. But I was just looking for like a major leak for any major vacuum leak. But for now, we're not gonna be able to replace any until I actually know for sure what we have to replace. So we're gonna go ahead and go skip this step for now. It's unfortunate because I really wanted to replace one of the hoses that can cause like a vacuum leak, but looks like everything is good for right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and reconnect the hose, and afterwards we're gonna go ahead and replace the O2 sensor. Okay guys, so I got the new O2 sensor right here as well as the socket. Now for this O2 sensor, it was a little bit weird to find the right one because they have different shapes and varieties of like the one I needed. So when I was looking up the Datsun280zx O2 sensor, there was a bunch of varieties which one to get. So I closely match it up to the best what it looks like the most. So I'm pretty confident it's this one, but also a little nervous too because I don't want, if I don't get the right one, unfortunately I can't install it. But we're gonna go ahead and install this, and afterwards we're gonna go ahead and start it up and see if it changes anything with the engine idling. Alright guys, so O2 sensor is out. So this is the old one compared to the new one. So as you guys can see, the very tip is just completely black. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but usually when it's completely black, I would think that it's bad. But if you compare it to the new one, it's got the nice brushed steel on it, and also it has the liquid that's supposed to go on the threads. I'm not too sure what it's called, but I matched it up. Looks like the connection is right. This one's actually a nicer quality, so it should just plug in really nicely. Then afterwards you can give the car another start. Alright, let's go ahead and start the car, see if anything changes. So far nothing yet. Alright, here we go. Dang, it started right up. Not expecting that. Alright, so my foot is off the gas, so the car is idling by itself. So I think the O2 sensor replacement was a good choice to do. So luckily we didn't lose it, we didn't do anything too much, but as you guys can see, we're getting a ton of fumes in the back. So the exhaust system is definitely needed. So let me actually go ahead and shut this off for you guys. Nothing to you guys, if you come to the back of the car, so you see the exhaust pipe right here, but it's a little bit hard to see. I'm going to bring that brightness up. But as you guys can see, my muffler is just hanging, dangling, because I was trying to attempt something and eventually it just snapped off. So now it's just dangling around. So I will get a new muffler. I'm not looking for something super crazy, just enough to where it can drive normal again. But I'm not going to put it on this side. I'm actually going to leave it to where that side is because there's enough space underneath the car to put in an exact muffler underneath right in there. So we're going to go ahead and take care of that. That's probably going to be on the next video. But for now, we're going to go ahead and give this car a wash because it has not been washed in so long and it's very dirty. And obviously we have rat droppings inside the engine. So we're just going to give it a little nice touch, and afterwards we'll go on to the next step. But let's wash this car out. Alright you guys, Datsun280zx is all nice and cleaned up now. I just gave it a little quick wash, nothing too crazy. So Fortunately, we didn't do too much today. Like, I was looking forward to replacing some of the hoses, but it looks like none of them were leaking at the moment. So the only thing that we could do was replace the O2 sensor. So looks like we were only able to replace the O2 sensor, which is very good because after when I replaced it, the car started right away. It sounded a lot healthier. So that's also a bonus that we got done today. Okay guys, so it's been a couple weeks since we last worked on the Datsun280zx, so I didn't feel like I didn't need it to end the video like that just because we did very little work as possible. So I went ahead and did something else, so I planned this out like very last minute. So as you guys know, like we have the Junkyard find Datsun280zx Fender. Now the thing is, I put a poll up on my Instagram where if I should do a primary color such as like a light gray, black, or try to paint match this brown as close as possible. So the best thing when I went was I actually went for the primary gray color, only because this brown color is very hard to find and it's not like in any like local parts stores or AutoZone. And another thing too, for black, I just feel like it was just like a little bit off. So since like I got the primary color, I went ahead and just got the primary gray, just so later when we get more into, I would say, getting rid of like all this rust right here and on the roof as well, I'm going to be using primary. So it's better to do that as well, because afterwards, like once we get this fender painted, then we can start focusing on the other rusted spots. Another thing to you guys, like I haven't worked on the car for a long time now, so I just want to get it prepped on the road again. Besides painting the fender, if you guys have noticed, like we do have a fender on the other side. In my previous fender, it did have a fender mirror, but the thing is, these are really cheap eBay fenders that I just found for like 60 bucks, but unfortunately they just got really loose over time and they just wobble around no more. Like if I go over to the fender over here, like if I try to position it towards like the driver, it would just pretty much just want to wobble just like that. So it's not really good for the road. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm just going to pop the hood, just get the battery connected and let the car warm up. Also put in some brake fluid because I'm pretty sure I have no brakes in the car right now. So just enough just to get onto the side of the road over here, because this is where we're going to be sanding and prepping the fender for paint. And afterwards we can go ahead and start sanding everything down by certain grits of sandpaper, and then we can start laying down the first coat. But first, let's get the Datsun started. Pretty much what we're doing is like I'm just sanding down like the previous color that's on there, but we're going to start off with like a very small, I would say, dry sanding material. So we're going to go off with the 180 just to get rid of all the paint, all the rust on there, and afterwards we're going to start to smooth it down to a 320. Then we're going to finish it off with a 400 sandpaper. Now afterwards, when it's all sanded down, I'm going to go ahead and get the primer started. But first, what we need to do, we need to tape off the edges that we don't want to get sanded. So I'll see you guys a bit after this is all sanded. Alright guys, so I got the tape taped off where I want it to be. As for the hood, I don't really need to tape this because if you guys look, it just pretty much ends right here. But I'm still going to sand this part down because we are going to paint that. Alright, so what we're going to be doing first, you guys, is going to be using the 180 grit sandpaper, but I'm also going to be using a sponge. I actually learned this trick from Chris Fix. So pretty much what we're going to be doing is we take the sandpaper and wrap it around the sponge, because when we're sanding it down, it's going to apply evenly on what we're going to be sanding down, so it makes a nice even coat while we're sanding. So we're going to go ahead and get started with this, and then afterwards we can move up to the 320 grit. Okay guys, after a couple of hours of sanding, I think the fender is ready to go for paint, but I'm gonna wait till a couple days because right now it's still super windy. So I'm gonna just wait till the perfect weather shows up, and afterwards we're gonna actually paint this thing. Now, honestly, in terms of like how I sand this down, it's like it's not like a perfect job, but at the same time, I'm not. This is the first time I'm actually sanding down the fender, so pretty much I just gotta do the best what I can do right now. Honestly, I'm definitely gonna invest in some sanding tools. I'm just working with what I have right now, just to see what hand sanding is gonna be like and what I can do, like, or what I can get with this kind of ability and what kind of sandpaper I'm using. So, honestly, I'm not too worried about how it's gonna come out. Like, as long as I get the primer color on there, it's gonna be okay. But for now, I'm gonna wait a couple days till the wind has calmed down. Afterwards, we can spray this whole fender. And then the next step after we spray, we're gonna go ahead and move to fender mirrors, and we're gonna make sure we're gonna get that exhaust system fixed. But for the time being, I'll see you guys in a couple days when we finally paint this fender. So I'll see you in a bit. Alright, good morning guys. It is on Tuesday now, so I told you guys that I'm gonna work on the fender again just to like get everything prepped ready for paint. But I decided last minute, if you guys remember, we do have these little pegs that are sticking out of the fender. This one's not even that bad, but mostly it's this one and these three at the bottom right here, or I should say these six. So I'm actually gonna see if I can try to drill these out or just clip them off, just because like I'm not getting any like surface done with the sanding on these points exactly. So I'm just gonna have some tools, like I'm just gonna bring some tools out just to try to get rid of these, just so I can get them out. So what I think I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna try to clip them off, and afterwards I'm gonna try to hit it with the drill and make a hole through here. Okay guys, so as you guys can see, we got these holes drilled out. Fortunately on this one, I actually slipped off and I created a scratch on here, but I don't really mind that much. I mean, I'm gonna repaint the car entirely eventually in the far near future, but I'm only just doing it just to get this single panel to one color. So as you guys can see, we got those done. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna sand these certain spots just for a little bit, and afterwards we can start prepping the wheel, the hood, the window, and the door, because we're gonna be painting this fender once it's ready. So let's go ahead and get that started really quick. Okay guys, so car is resurfaced, or resanded I should say. So as you guys can see, like I just did a little bit more work on the top right here. It gets a little bit wider right here, and that's a little bit red. But anyways, we are now ready to get the car start prepping for paint. But first, what we need to do is we need to wipe down this entire fender with some rubbing alcohol, and afterwards I'm going to go ahead and get some trash bags and start taping them up where I wanted to get painted, and then we can start the first coat. Alright guys, so car is finally taped off, ready to be painted. So I'm not the best, like I would say, masker to get the car ready for paint, but I would say this is a pretty okay job. So for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and layer the first coat, then the second and the third, and afterwards we're going to let it dry overnight, and I'll get back to you when it's all finished up the next morning, which is tomorrow. So I'll go ahead and start the first coat. Alright guys, so I applied the final coat. So far the paint's looking pretty good. I actually like this primer color. It's like a nice deep gray. Like usually for the primer colors they're a little bit lighter, but so far I'm actually really liking it a lot. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to remove this trash bag where the wheel is, because it's nothing's really holding it down besides the tire that I just have wedged in. So I'm actually going to have to leave for work and let this dry overnight, and then the next morning I might put a clear coat on just for extra protection. But with that being said, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning and see how the paint looks after. So I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay guys, welcome back. So we finally got the paint all dried up. We had waited full 24 hours before we put on one last coat. I was just gonna leave it at paint, but I went ahead and just found some leftover gloss I had in the garage just to give it some protection. Like I said before, like when painting this, I'm not looking for the perfect paint job on this fender. I just want to get something on there just to cover up that red and silver, just to give it that one color base. And since there was some rust developing, we went ahead and take care of that already. So now let's go ahead and lay this out, and afterwards I'm just gonna let this sit and dry for at least 30 minutes, and I'm gonna take off everything, and then we can put back on the turning signal, and of course take off all this junk on here. Okay guys, so the fender has completely dried with that clear coat on, so I'm going to go ahead and start stripping everything down, and I'm going to put back that turning signal and just throw everything away from this trash bag, and afterwards let's see how the Datsun looks. Alright guys, so this is the final verdict. So this is how the fender turned out. I'm actually pretty happy the way that it came out. I know I'm not the best painter in the world because there are some lines right there. It's kind of hard to tell. I think I just applied the clear coat a little too thick. I was a little bit too close to the fender because I forgot how far that sprays. But in terms of how the color came out, I'm actually liking it a lot. And it's actually a good experience too that I started doing this, because I feel or I would be down to actually paint the whole Datsun this color for a while, because the Datsun definitely needs a new color, because this poo brown color, it definitely just needs an update, because the clear coat has completely failed and it's now the paint that's being damaged. So honestly, from doing that one fender, I think I might be down to do the whole car this color. And I don't think I'm going to take it to a paint shop. I think I'll be down to do the whole thing with the spray can. It's definitely going to be a long process, but let me know in the comments if you guys are interested in seeing that, because I would be so down to do that, to paint the whole Datsun, fixing up the rust and some body panels as well, and painting the whole car a whole different color, because I'm really liking the way this fender turned out. Alright guys, so the next step for this Datsun280zx fender, we definitely need to get some new fender mirrors on both sides, because as you guys know, they're both broken. I just don't have the other one no more, so there's not really a point in keeping them. But we're definitely going to install some in the near future, as well as some other modifications as well. Now, as you guys know, that I'm having an exhaust emission issue because I'm running open headers right now, and we need to get that fixed. But that's going to be on a next video, because we are definitely looking into that right now. I'm actually going to go visit an exhaust shop, see if they can help me out with the Datsun280zx exhaust problem. So hopefully it will be pretty soon, because right now I'm trying to get that done as soon as possible, because we need to get this Datsun back on the road. I'm not in an emergency rush to get this out on the road or anything, but it's been so long this car has been on the road, or it's been on the driveway forever now. I would say it's been on the driveway or in this neighborhood for at least a year and a half, so it's been a long time. Okay guys, I'm going to go ahead and end the video here. This is pretty much what I have planned for the Datsun280zx today. Not really much to do. I know there's just little modifications that I've done today, but we are definitely trying to fix that exhaust issue really quick, because I definitely want to bring this Datsun back on the road again. So that will be on the next video about the Datsun280zx. But in this case, I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. Be sure to go down below, hit that like button, and consider subscribing as well. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.